This is the Learn Jazz Standards Podcast, episode 100.
Welcome to the LJS Podcast, where you get weekly jazz tips, interviews, stories, and advice for becoming a better jazz musician. And now your host. He's a jazz musician, author, and entrepreneur, Brent Bardstra.
All right, hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Brent. I am the jazz musician behind the website LearnJazzStandards.com, which is a blog and a podcast all geared towards helping you become a better jazz musician. Welcome. It is episode 100. That is right, 100 episodes of this podcast, and I want to thank you all so much for listening, especially if you've been listening for a long time or even from the beginning. I really appreciate it. I mean, this podcast could not continue without you, so I really appreciate everybody who's listened, who's helped this podcast get to the big episode 100. And if you've been listening to this podcast for the last month or so, you know that this is our birthday month. Today's episode 100, and then at the end of the month, we have episode 104, which we have a very special birthday episode planned with a bunch of you, the listeners, who have submitted recordings to us, who we are going to be featuring on the show. It's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that episode, but also because this is the big mile marker 100, we have a really special episode today. I have on a very important person in my life. He was my jazz mentor and really helped me get into jazz, get into where I am now as a jazz musician, as even a person. And that is my mentor, Justin Nielsen. Now, Justin, he lays it down today with some incredible jazz tips, advice, and I mean, you're just not going to want to miss this episode today. I mean, I thought about who I should have on the show, and Justin was the guy that I knew he had to be on episode 100. I just knew it, and so I'm so glad I got to have him on. So, man, he has some awesome freebies to offer you at the end of this episode, so definitely hang on tight till then. It's a longer episode, but I couldn't cut anything out of this because it's all just complete gold, and I know you're going to love everything he has to say in the conversation that we have today. Now, like I said, it's our birthday month, and so I have a really exciting thing that we're doing. We're actually going to be doing a really awesome raffle where it's really just simple things you can do to help us this month as a birthday gift for the podcast, such as give us rating reviews on iTunes, like us on Facebook, sign up for our mailing list, share this episode 100 with others. There's a bunch of other little things you can do to basically, get extra raffle entries in for our prizes that we're going to have, and then we're going to announce them at the end of the month. And some of those prizes include, like the top prizes, like all of our courses, all of our jazz courses, whether it be 30 Days to Better Jazz Playing or our ear training course, How to Play What You Hear. Also, our entire play-along collection, which is like 250 or so play-alongs. We're giving all that away, and a bunch of other prizes. I think total we have somewhere around 17 or so different people who will get a prize. So it's a good chance if you get in there and you do all the raffle entries, it will happen for you. So if you just want to give back to this podcast, whether you've already gotten some of the courses or the books that we have and you don't really need a prize, just want to give back, go to LearnJazzStandards.com/raffle and complete some of those action items just to give back for our birthday. Really appreciate it. And then, of course, you'll get entered in the raffle for doing that as well. So LearnJazzStandards.com/raffle. We really appreciate it. That'd be super awesome. Now, I don't want to waste any time. I want to jump right into this interview because this is a really special episode today. So without further ado, here is my jazz mentor, Justin Nielsen. All right, welcoming on the show today is jazz pianist, freelancer, teacher, composer, and he was one of my most important mentors in my developing days in playing jazz and learning jazz, and that is Justin Nielsen. Justin, thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure. Thank you, Brent, for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on, Justin, because, first of all, this is episode 100. This is a really important episode, and when I was thinking, what do I want to do for episode 100? How do I want to make this a special episode? Because it's a special number. I couldn't think of anybody else besides you, because you've played a really important role in my life, in that, you're one of the most influential mentors I've ever had as a musician, and particularly in in jazz. And, I met you sometime around my junior or senior year of high school, and I started going to your school, and you had this little tribe of jazz, kids learning jazz out in Boise, Idaho, which is where I'm from, which is where you live today. And I joined you there and other students in the school that you were starting up. And from there, you kind of, taught me the ropes and all these different things. And, you played a huge role, especially because after my senior year of high school, and some of my listeners who have heard me told a little bit of this before will recognize this. I didn't go to college right away, and I didn't necessarily have enough money to go to college right away. But you had a great solution for me, and you had me stay with you for a year and study. And I did a really rigorous program with you, actually kind of an insane program with you. But I thank you for that. And, in a lot of ways, you changed my life. And so I want to thank you, first of all, just publicly for that, just for, changing the direction of my life, influencing me to do something so beautiful and rich and playing jazz, playing music, and setting me up for the success I am today. And so, but before we, I just wanted to say that, get all that out of the way right up front.
Yeah, thank you, Brent. Thank you.
And but a lot of my audience, they don't know who you are. So how about we just do the 1 minute Justin Nielsen bio, what you are, what you're all about, what you're doing right now.
All right. Okay, that sounds good. Well, I have to start by saying, the feeling's mutual, Brent. There's a handful of students that you never forget, and you're one of those. And as I've been teaching longer, I guess the list of students like that gets bigger. But still, I'll never forget that. First batch, you were really part of the first round. I was a lot younger.
Yeah.
Just getting started. And you guys were the first little batch of students that really changed my life, as much or more than you say I changed yours. So there's that I want to say. And then, any teachers listening to this, you know that feeling. It's like it's better than your own careers when you start seeing things like this happen with your students. So I'm totally thrilled with what you've done, and really the person you've become too. That's the really big thing. So,
thanks,
so now I got that out of the way. So other stuff. No, so wait. So what was the question? Let me go back here.
Just introduce yourself to the audience. The 1 minute Justin Nielsen bio.
Sure.
What you are, what you're doing right now.
Okay. All right. Well, so I'm a jazz pianist, freelance jazz pianist, and I'm a performer. I do some performing and touring, that kind of thing. Recording, all that. But I really think that my passion and biggest love in terms of my career is concerned is definitely mentoring and working with young creative musicians. It's like the first time I started doing that is I felt like it felt as effortless as breathing to me, and as rewarding as that. And I've really been obsessed with the process of working with young musicians, helping them progress quickly and helping them navigate the really difficult and challenging world of being a creative person or a creative musician in kind of an uncreative world.
Yeah.
And so I mean, mostly that's in terms of my work. I have some recordings, I have some people I play with and everything, but I'm really the most proud about I am the most excited about people like you, Brent, and a lot of my other students, and what they've accomplished and what they're doing now. So
awesome, and you've definitely touched a lot of other people's lives, not just mine. Now, what got you all started down this path in the very first place? How did you get into music? What was the kind of the early beginnings there? Eventually, how did you get into jazz music specifically?
Yeah, okay. So I was. My parents are both musicians. My mom was a piano teacher. My dad, conductor and a music educator. He taught junior high, high school, college, and also conducted, community orchestras and stuff. So music was in my house. It was always there. And I, as a really young kid, remember just wondering if everybody just picks their instrument at age whatever and goes for it. I just thought that's what you did. But that being said, I didn't seriously commit to it or anything like that for years. My mom tried to teach me piano lessons, and I'm sure a lot of people that have moms that are piano teachers, I mean, there's a lot of them out there, I've discovered. That didn't resonate really well. But around age 12, I guess what really turned me on to music was my dad actually gave me recordings of Beethoven piano concertos. I think it was Emanuel Axe playing piano concerto, Beethoven Concerto 3 and 4. He gave me that, I think for my birthday or something. And the first time I listened to it, I didn't like it. The 10th time, I started to notice something. And then the 100th time, I was in love and knew my life would never be the same again.
Wow.
It took me places that I didn't know a person could be, especially as a 12-year-old boy, accessing places emotionally, spiritually, personally that, didn't even know were there through music. It felt like a miracle.
Wow. So in a lot of ways, Beethoven was like your first big moment.
Yeah, Beethoven
cool.
was my first. Yeah, he was my first aha moment that, okay, music is it for sure. Then I became so then I was like, well, I want to do that, and so I started studying classical music. Took classical piano lessons. I practiced a lot. As a kid, I actually got pretty serious about practicing. I would wake up at 5 a.m. and walk to the community college block away and go to a practice room before school. And then I would practice. I was basically always practicing my teen years. I was not very socially active, so I think I filled that with a relationship with the piano. So I did that, and I thought I was going to be a classical musician for a long time until. This is kind of a simplified version, but of course that's how you have to do this thing. But until I heard jazz, I was about. I think I was already an adult. I was 21 years old actually, and. That was like an altar call or something. That was that was the Beethoven experience times, I don't know, maybe 100 or something. And I was 100% sure I was going to be playing jazz or studying that music as long as I could. So.
And what exactly resonated with you with jazz? Like, why was it such a profound moment, kind of a fall in love, love at first sight sort of a thing?
I think it was the freedom. And the creativity, and this isn't to say I know that there are classical pianists that feel the same freedom and creativity playing a Beethoven sonata, because it's not like one way to do that either. But for me, seeing and this was the first time I heard live jazz. I remember it was Kenny Barron, Lewis Nash.
Ooh.
I remember who the drummer was. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was hearing the great musicians doing it, and I don't know how do you talk about it? I remember so Thelonious Monk said talking about music is like dancing about architecture. I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, that's one of his bizarre
quotes. It's like, how do you describe what's going on inside you when that happens? But yeah, I think it was freedom. Yeah.
Right, and just resonating with that as well is, sometimes when you have these great musical moments, and we all have good and bad musical moments, but when you have those great musical moments, and you ask yourself, why do I play music, and you can't really describe it in words other than like this feeling you get when you're actually in the moment and you're playing, and why do you keep pursuing it, and you can't really answer the question other than just like it's just this feeling that you have that something is right when you're doing it, right?
Yep.
And okay, so you fell in love with jazz. All this happened. Now, what happened after that? Did you how old were you? And then where did you go from there?
Okay, so I was 21 years old, and I was kind of in the middle of a classical piano degree at a college. Okay, which I ended up not finishing because sort of slowly jazz took over, I guess. So I did this transition to where I was supposed to be practicing for my juries, and actually I did go through the whole process. I played Liszt's B minor sonata for my final jury and everything, but there was this kind of slow process where jazz started taking up more of my practice time, and especially just working in the area as a jazz musician. I started getting calls from the local musicians and started playing. Which
is the Boise area, right? You still talking about?
Boise.
Yeah. Boise, Idaho, yeah.
Boise, Idaho. Some great musicians here, the older generation, and they started calling me, and next thing I knew, I was just kind of a freelance musician playing gigs in Boise and teaching a set of private students. And I don't know. I don't know that there was. I think the moment where my life got, like I say, where it felt like breathing to me. It felt like, okay, this is my life's work. Was when it was the creation of the private school, Arts West, which you went
Right.
to. 10, 15 years ago is when I started or something. And then I was dealing with, I don't know what it was about that. You know what it was? It was, okay, I began this process of having my kids learn by doing, having my students learn by doing, not just by practicing.
Right. So like going out and playing, is that what you mean? Or
yes, I think, getting you guys out playing every week.
yeah.
And always preparing for the next performance. And then this is the okay, I know this is exactly what, and okay, maybe discovering jazz was 100 times the Beethoven, but the first time you have like one of your students, like a kid, teenager, do something that they know actually moved the people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Like they hit that space themselves. The first time that happened, that was it.
Right.
I'm sure that was it, and that's when I knew I was going to be doing
Right.
Mentoring kids, young musicians.
Right, and the power of teaching, especially for the audience listening, like it's hard to if you don't know Justin, but the energy that you exude, the positivity that you exude, it is so inspiring for students, and I can understand why this is such a big moment for you. And just a little more background for the audience listening today is the school Arts West. You started it. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. You kind of had a private lesson studio and a kind of a network with other teachers, right? And you kind of decided to make that into an actual accredited school. Is that how it went down?
Yeah. So I was running an after-school program where there's programs like this all over the country where there's like 20 or so private teachers teaching in this after-school program, and really, I mean, I think actually it was that teaching the private lessons. It was, I mean, there was a lot of great stuff coming out of that, but actually, I just felt this need to create a community, and like I said, I've kind of always been obsessed with what's the best way to get these kids to open up, and I felt this need to create a community out of the kids that were taking the private lessons, and then Arts West, that's the original name of the school, is kind of born out of that idea, and so then it was a full-on private school for young musicians and artists and dancers actually, and doing all the academic work in the mornings, and then first half of the day, second half of the day, getting time and energy to invest in their art.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that was the year, the year the school started officially is when I came on and I was really glad to be a part of it. And that's what I was saying earlier, really kind of started a big change in my life is, I was going half time to my public school, and then I was going out to Arts West for the rest of the afternoon and spending time with you and a combo playing with other musicians, getting lots of time to practice, and you were telling us what to do. And that was just so helpful to have a mentor, and the part that you're saying about getting your students out there and just doing, I remember, and tell me if you guys still do this, or if you still have other students doing this anyways, going out to the coffee shop Rembrandt's every single Thursday, we had a jam session, and we would all go out there, and like everybody was there every single week. All of your students were there. We were all playing the tunes we were working on, and that was that was really special, especially for younger musicians that were trying to learn and having that place to play. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little about the power that you think that brings.
Yeah, I think, I mean, people have asked me, like, what's your curriculum and all that kind of stuff. And I do have, and I could even talk about that if we get there. But I think number one is that people, you learn 100 lessons from performing. It's like my son plays baseball. He's a great baseball player, actually, and his coach says baseball is a game of failures, and even the great players strike out 7 times or don't get on base 7 out of 10 times, and it's dealing with failure and success, and even learning why you would want to be practicing in the first place. Like my son Jordan wanted to learn baseball because when he was 8 years old, he starts saying, "I want to play baseball." We signed him up for Little League, and 2 weeks later, he's playing his first game. If instead of taking him to a game, we had gotten him like a private batting coach to just like work on his swing and be like, well, you're not ready to play yet. You got to keep practicing this swing till it's perfect. Eventually you'll be playing, but right now just keep practicing that swing till it's perfect. He may not have stayed with baseball. I doubt he would have. And so I think the thing about performing is you're getting to, okay, here's the reason why. Here's the reason why you might want to practice. Like I say, you're going to watch some people get up there and really move everyone, and you're going to taste that and be like, oh, I want to do that, or you're going to do that yourself, and and then you're hooked for life if you do that. Then you're going to want to, and then if your teacher says, well, you got to work on this transcription or whatever, you're a little more motivated to do it because you know why you're practicing in the first place.
Absolutely, because becoming a better musician is there's no magic snap your finger. It's here we are, we're ready, and now you're good to go. There's no magic formula. Yes. There's no shortcuts. It's really a long-term thing, and yes. I think especially in jazz music, it's like that because there's so much harmonic complexity. There's a lot of things going on that you really have to dedicate yourself to, and like you said, like working on a solo, like learning a solo by ear, that's a hard task. That's a lot yes. of work. And if you don't really have anything to base off why you would want to do that, like the feeling of actually performing, then why would you do it? So
exactly.
I can totally resonate with that. Now I want to talk a little bit about kind of the stuff that you do teach your students. Because one thing that I really love about what you did for me is you just told me what to do. Like, you sat me down and you said, hey man, it's up to you to do this. I'm going to give you all the opportunities. I'm going to tell you what you should be doing. And then it's up to you to do it. And luckily I'm kind of a self-motivated person. So that super worked for me. And what happened is, and I was saying this early in the show, is I didn't go to college right away like all my other friends were doing. It was a weird time in my life. And you were kind of, there leading me, telling me what to do. And you gave me this program to work on. And it was actually an absolutely insane program, which I thank you to this day for making me do, which was something I can't remember exactly how it went, but I think the goal was I was going to learn 100 jazz standards by the end of the year. And so I think that ended up being like 3 jazz standards a week. And then my aim was 32 bars, learning 32 bars of a solo every single week. And then I think there's some other things thrown in there. And then I was playing a gig with my friend and your other student, Sean. And so, we were doing that. So tell me about some of those things that I just talked about. Why are those things that you had me do, learning tunes, transcribing solos, all this stuff? Why are those things that you have your jazz students do?
Yeah, well, so this is where we need to start touching on, because before we got online here, I was saying there's some things I wish I had known, or things I know now, or at least things I do now, I should say, that I didn't used to do. And so I actually, I do all of those things, but I guess my approach is a little different. So if we're wanting to talk about what I'm teaching now, things have changed a little bit for me there. So I sort of feel like students, at least the students I work with, benefit from having a really strong creative outlet. That's like half of it. So that this is the half where it's like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're going to tell me what you want to do, and I'm going to help you do that. So like if you want to, and so this is really different. This might even, I don't know, this might not fit with the Learn Jazz Standards concept, but it's like if you want to write a country music song, for this hour you get to do that. Whatever it is you want to do. If you want to play with your launch pad or whatever, so it's like this. It's because music is like this infinite field of exploration. There's no end to this. And as everyone is clearly seeing right now, especially your generation and younger, it's all mixing together now. It's not like I'm a jazz musician, you have to have your ears open to the whole thing and be curious. So I spent a little more time letting them develop, even start to begin to develop their own conception and sound from the very, very beginning. So that's kind of a new thing. And I'm always having, no matter how beginning or advanced or whatever my student is, we have them write music, perform it, and record it. And I could go really deep into why I do that, but that realm of writing, composing, performing, recording your music over and over again, it's not like this is the one lesson you're going to get out of this. It's like there are hundreds of things you're going to learn from failing in front of people, or actually hearing what you sound like coming back at you.
Right.
That is such a humbling
That's scary stuff.
First time.
Yeah, it is a humbling experience.
That's why people stay away from doing it for so long, because, if you're a guitarist, there's Kurt Rosenwinkel. So why should you do anything? Right?
Right.
Or if you're a pianist,
right.
I mean, come on, Brad Mehldau. Like, if I have a new piano student, Brad Mehldau, Oscar Peters, I show him a few videos, and then it's okay. You're not going to be the greatest, most killing musician of all time. Like, you almost need to discover that, like, right off the bat. So you're hearing yourself. So there's so many lessons you learn from writing, performing, and recording your own original music, and it's hard because it's like, this is mine. I made this, and I'm showing it to people. And I think just dealing with it's also good, I think, again, this is what I wish I'd known back when I was working with you guys, but when they're that young and they're having to deal with the emotional onslaught that comes from releasing your first track of music to other listeners. I mean, anyway, so that's about half of it. Then the other half is jazz training. And the other thing, I guess it's changed a little bit, is some of my young musicians really resonate with jazz, and that is what they want to do. But even if they don't, I still make them learn jazz because well, first of all, it's what I know, but also, I mean, I guess anyone listening to this podcast already knows this, but it's almost what makes American music sound American. I mean, it's in everybody's bloodstream. It's in our culture, and it's a tradition that has survived the test of time. And it's something for them to study and get them thinking on more subtle levels about music. But anyway, so this other half, the jazz improv, I teach it as a spiral, and so what I do is I actually, with my high school kids and junior high kids, we only work on 10 tunes for years, just 10. And what we do is it's like a spiral. So the first time around, they hit these 10 tunes, just learning the melodies and the very bare minimum necessary required to be able to hang on a jam session on that tune. They might not even understand what's going on yet, but they learn the melody to the tune so they can play the head, and they learn, if it's a tune that only has one chord or that one scale would work through the whole tune, they just learn that one scale, the first spiral through. Then we do another, then we come, and so then they do run that through the 10 tunes, and then we come back around again. And they usually, I'll have them then learn to play the chords on the piano next time through, and then back around again. The guitarists learn the first set of voicings, and then back around again. They do their first transcription, and then and so on and so forth. So it's like that kind of thing, and then they know. And this is just, and like, this is my way of doing it. Of course, obviously, every week you interview someone, and a different way of approaching it is shown to you. And so you have to find your own thing. But that works for me because I feel like, it is really hard to because the world of jazz and creative music it's like this whole universe of information, and it's just incredibly intimidating coming to it, seeing the level of complexity and artistry of the people who have figured it out, and even to just become a good, solid professional jazz musician, just the craft, let alone the art, which is a whole other thing. That in and of itself is it requires such a commitment. It can be very intimidating. So I do the 10 tunes so that my students can experience what it's like to really master a tune and to know a lot about it. Every tune is a universe. Like, that spiral could continue forever. Yeah. You could spend the rest of your life studying 10 tunes. Of course, you don't want to do that because you want to get work playing without using a phone. You want to be able to get work. So
right.
If you know what I mean. But that's how I do it now. So.
That's awesome. Well, I love the idea of focusing in on 10 jazz standards. Actually, in April, I'm coming out with a new ebook. I'm really excited. Actually, I don't think I've announced this to my audience yet, but so this is kind of like, it's kind of on the down low, but I guess everybody's hearing it now. So like, I'm coming out with this book. Yeah, don't tell anybody. So yeah, it's a study of 10 jazz standards actually, and it really digs deep and analyzes these standards because when you look at if you really hone in on some of them, like you can learn so much about all the rest of them. Like if you just really focus on, a handful of them, you can get so much and learn so much about the harmony. And in a lot of ways, at least in jazz standard repertoire, you can start just learning all of them by simply, understanding the harmony of a handful.
Yes.
So I think that's a really cool approach. I really love also what you were saying a little earlier about how you're having your students now just kind of do whatever they want to do, whatever style of music it is, composing their own music. I think that's super cool. And like we've talked about before on this podcast is, we can learn things from, whether jazz is your favorite music to listen to or whatever it is, it's your favorite kind of music. Mm-hmm. You can learn so much by playing other styles of music too.
Yes.
And in fact, sometimes lessons that you can't learn in jazz on the other side of things too.
Yes.
If you're a musician outside of the jazz realm, there's so many things that jazz can teach you about music and help you improve as an overall musician. So I feel like you found this incredible sweet spot, which is so cool and so amazing to hear.
Yes.
So basically what you're telling me is you now do the opposite of what you did for me in that. But you know what? I love that.
I was young, but
No, but hold on. But let me just say this though. Like, I totally resonate with what you're doing with your students now. But I will say, like, I think it's what I needed so much so at that point in my life, because I was in a very trying to figure out who I was as a person, trying to figure out, at least in the society that the class of people that I was surrounded with, all of my friends were going to college. I was not. I felt isolated, socially isolated. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And what you did is you kept me busy for an entire year working towards something, and you gave me a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
And it was amazing stuff to do. And so, again, I thank you so much for having me do all that stuff. So, sometimes, each student has a different need, and not to say that I was practicing, I think 5 to 6 to 7 hours a day, and that was insane. But like I said, that kept me busy, and that really jump started me in the direction I needed to go. Especially as a little bit of I would consider a little bit of a latecomer to the music. So that's awesome. So okay, awesome. So it sounds like that's the stuff that you're teaching your students, and everybody listening right now can. That's a little hint as into maybe some of the stuff that you should be working on. But let's hone in a little bit deeper here. Let's pick a student here.
Ooh.
Someone who is very new to jazz. We're talking jazz right now, strictly jazz.
Sure.
Someone who's very new to jazz.
Sure.
Maybe, or at least in the beginning stages, what should they be focusing on? Like, what should their practice session look like if they have like an hour of time to spend?
Okay. So if they're brand new, just starting. Now I cannot, I've been doing this so long, I cannot avoid the first thought coming to my mind is find a place where you are going to have to play whatever song you're about to study in front of people. So whether whether there's a jam session or something, you must, I think it doesn't matter what, I don't think it matters what school you're going to, and it's not on your teacher even. You just have to find a place and a way to play on a regular basis. So I'm just going to say that again, because if I get a brand new student, I'm always able to say, okay, this Friday or a week from Friday or whatever, you're going to play this. And then when I say that, like they are already all in on learning the song because there's a little fear, there's a little tension, and they're highly, highly motivated to learn the song. So again, that would be my first thing, create a place you're going to have to play it. But then,
right, yeah.
Even if you're just starting out, I think, but anyway, so let's say we got like a saxophone player. I usually start my kids on the tune Softly as in a Morning Sunrise. So, so I will record it onto their phone is how I'll do it, but you could get it off of, there's, actually, if you have a teacher, I just record it onto their phone because I don't want them to. I want them to know the melody in its purest form. So, but anyway,
right.
So transcribe the melody to the tune, and most people play this tune in C minor, and so I would say learn that melody by ear to Softly as in a Morning Sunrise. Like, if there's someone listening to the podcast right now that wants to have your first experience with this, step 1, find a place, find a jam session. Step 2, learn the melody to Softly as in a Morning Sunrise. And step 3, learn the concert C. So if it depends on your instrument, but learn the concert C natural minor scale. And then and then I'm going to guess that LearnJazzStandards.com has a soft. No, I know you do actually. I'm pretty sure. I have used that one. So you go to YouTube, get the LearnJazzStandards.com softly as in a morning sunrise, and
the backing tracks you're talking about.
Backing track. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, we put those up like almost 10 years ago, and for some reason, a lot of people like them. I guess people like backing tracks, so there you go.
Yeah. So and it's free. So do that, and then play the melody and start improvising over a C natural minor scale, and you're doing it, and then show up at a jam session and do it in front of people, and just be okay with whatever happens. It may work and it may not. You might fail. There's a good chance of that. It's a big part of the process. So, but that's
I really love it, because this has obviously been a theme of our conversation today. Is like just going out and doing it. If you don't do it, there's. I have some students that occasionally I teach, students from, across the world. And, the big problem though with Skype lessons is, it's more like a consulting session. So, you're able to tell them the things they should do. And if you have the right student, they'll actually go through and they'll do the stuff, and that's awesome. But the one thing that I always tell them is like, you got to go out, find your local jam, go find somebody else to play with. If you're not having someone to play with, then this stuff is, it's kind of like reading books. Like you can read all the books that you want and learn all the stuff that you want, but if you don't actually go and do it, you're not, you're not going to really know it. You're just going to have the book smarts. You're not going to have the actual street cred, so you have to go out there and do it. So I love that. So what about like a student that's maybe a little bit more, has been doing this for a while? Like how do they take their stuff up to the next level?
Okay. So maybe you, let's see. So maybe the melodies to those tunes or something like that. Then to me, I think if you're not a pianist, I would say learn the shell voicings over the form of the tunes on the piano. I keep having my students, and I found this actually especially with guitarists. So since you're a guitarist, and I'm sure you have guitarists, because you have so many options of. There's not only one. Like there's a button I can push to play middle C on a piano, right? And navigating that whole thing and how to play changes, how to improvise lines over harmony. That seems to come together for me with instrumentalists when I make them learn how to play the chords on the piano. So that's what I would say next. I mean, if you're already hanging, and by hanging I just mean you're able to play the right scales over the right chords at this point. The next thing I would do is learn to play the changes on the piano, and then I would say once you are comfortable with these underpinnings, the harmonic underpinnings of the music. So if you play the piano on the tune, you know some basic chord changes. You can comp over it. You can play it, but you're wanting to communicate. There's this point where you master those forms, and then it all kind of drops away, and you realize that that was just kindergarten. And I don't know if I don't want to depress anybody, but this keeps happening. By the way, this keeps happening. By the way, you keep, and then you see another, and then you whatever your next level around the spiral, you're like, oh, I knew nothing about this tune until But then you're wanting to start. I would start transcribing on a regular basis, which I'm sure your students hear that on all the time. I'm sure this is one. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. When you say transcribing, do you mean actually writing down, or do you mean just learning it by ear, or do you mean both, or what do you mean by that?
No. Right now, I actually just mean just learning it by ear. I've written out a few things, but in my experience, I've had my students learn that as like reading, basically the other way around, just by sight reading a lot. And that's a whole other topic, but it's
right. Yeah, I just wanted to clear up the terminology.
Yeah. Transcribing musicians that you resonate with and what they're doing, and I'm sure. I mean, these are things I think you've probably heard on a lot of different podcasts. I'm sure almost everyone probably says transcribe, and
it's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. And then I think Chet Baker is a good starting point I have a lot of my students start with Chet Baker because he plays the changes. He's got a lot of freedom, and he seems to be spontaneously composing a lot of what he's doing. It's not really just regurgitating bebop lines. So I like that. I like starting with him. But anything. Sometimes I'll play something for my students to transcribe. Maybe if they're not ready to lift something from a recording, just to get them going. But anyway, so there's that, and then boy, there's so much. It's like
yeah. No, and of course, like, it's a tough question because it's like, who is the actual student we're talking about here? Because like we were talking before, everybody has a different need. Yeah. But that's great stuff there. I mean, and that's the great thing about jazz, and I'm sure you can agree with me in music, not just jazz, is that it's an endless. It's just endless, and that's why I'll probably be doing this, for another 500, 600 episodes. Who knows? Yes. Because there's so much to actually talk about. There's so many different angles to take things, so many different things to practice, and just personal goals to achieve, and so it's just such a rich thing. I mean, it's just amazing. It's an amazing blessing to be a musician, and you taught that to me too, and so I really appreciate that. Okay, well, let's go a little bit away from. Let's kind of close up the show here with just some questions about you, maybe. How about what's like the most? What's one of the best musical moments you've ever had?
Okay, well, I have to again go back to. Oh boy, this is a good. I had about 5 come to my head. I'm not going to say them all, but I will start with. I do initially start thinking about some experiences I've had with my students, where the music they're making surprises me in the most delightful and wonderful ways, and they're doing things that never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I would be doing, and I have to continue. I find that to be the most intoxicating experience, one of the most intoxicating experiences I've ever had. So, and that happens. I can think of a few, but it probably wouldn't be of interest to the audience, except just to know that for those of you who feel like teaching could, it could be what you end up doing. It's an incredibly rewarding thing to do. So, but and then in terms of concerts, I'm in a band right now actually that I have that every time we play it feels like Christmas to me, and that's a band called that feeling like the night before, like Christmas Eve when you were a kid and you can't even sleep because you're so excited. So
right,
you actually know Kobe Watkins, I think, Brent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so
of course.
He has a band.
He played with Sonny Rollins for a while, right?
Yeah, he played with Sonny Rollins for years, and but he has a band called the Kobe Watkins Group Tet, and we're actually putting out our first record as a band this year, most likely, probably in April. But
so that's going to be great.
Playing with Kobe's one of my mentors, and playing with him is always a mind-blowing experience. But if I was going to go with one experience, and this was actually another show I was playing, and it was with this incredible drummer. Rakalam Bob Moses, his name, and we did this little mini tour. He teaches at New England Conservatory. My brother was there. Anyways, we did this. We did a set of dates in Idaho, and that was one of these experiences that everyone knows about when you're working with someone who is just. I mean, he's played with everyone, and he is such a powerful force musically, but we would play. It was actually entirely free music. We had no tunes. We were playing entirely free, but we would play a date, and then we would have like a 4-hour drive to the next thing, 5-hour drive, and he would just tell us he was quite obsessed with the degree to which we were not hanging on this gig, and what's hard is this is free music, so it's like. Well, but I thought there's no, so I
thought we were hanging.
Like, how can you not hang? It's free. But this is what's interesting is he kept, it's like, again, it's this thing of you're talking about it, but he's trying to get to a place that he can't describe with words. And we play again. It was the last date of that tour is probably the most transcendent musical experience I can remember. And that it was a night of entirely free playing. And what I realized he was trying to get us to do as close as I can get to words, which I really can't, but is that he wanted us to be dialed in to a degree that I just wasn't used to. Like not letting go of this, being like a cat sitting in front of a mouse hole waiting for that mouse to come out, with every hair standing up on its neck, waiting. And he was he was trying to get us to that place where we were in that kind of heightened state of awareness, and then responding in the moment to what was really happening. And that really affected the way I played music from then on. I will never forget that. And that started actually a journey in music that we haven't even started touching upon. But so I'd say that I think I picked that one. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. That's really cool. And when you have those moments, that's when you remember what you're doing all this for, like why you do it, and what makes it so amazing.
Yeah.
But Justin, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, but I know that there is a little more we need to talk about. I know that you have an ebook that you want to share with the audience today. And if you're listening to everything that Justin's saying right now, and you're just inspired as I am, you're going to want to check some of this stuff out. So tell us about this ebook.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let me start with just the first couple sentences of it, or not exactly, but the concept of the book. And that is, and this is actually something I wanted to get to say during the thing, and so I want to make sure it comes out, because to me, this is the most important advice I could give if I have 2 minutes to.
Here it is.
Musician. Yeah. So when I was a teenager, and we talked about, I discovered music, and it gave me this sense of purpose and meaning, and experiencing things I'd never felt before. I feel like almost every musician deals with this. This is the devil on the shoulder. There's this fear. It's like almost terror sometimes that, okay, I love this so much. Can it be taken away from me? Am I going to lose this at some point? And to me, that's nagging fear that was always with me. And for me, my temptation, and again, this is especially for teenagers and maybe college students, but really everyone. But the temptation is then to take that fear and have that manifest as the question of, okay, how can I leverage this gift in a way that I can make money so that it will never be taken away from me? And I feel like I think most people deal with this fear, and to me, it's a lot of what I'm trying to do with my students is have them understand that there is a way to be so committed to music and to internalize it so much that it can't be taken away from you. I mean, and then, my life, I've been a freelancer, so there have been times when I've had very little money. There have been times, and when the phone was ringing, other times it wasn't. But my commitment to music, there's a way you can get to a place where you don't have to worry about the outer aspects of your career and having to have those in order to be able to make music. That's something that you can create and have for yourself that nobody can take away from you. So I think that's really important. And then the other thing is there's two reasons, and kind of along the same lines almost, there's two reasons why a person might study and pursue music. One is to feel superior to others, and comparison and rating, ranking, and assessing, and all that goes with that. And if you do it for that reason, you'll fail a few times. This has kind of been a theme today anyways. And then you will quit, because when you fail, that means you lost something. You lost. The other reason you could have for doing music is to transform. This is what I think the purpose of music is to transform suffering into beauty through human connection. And it's by being of service to other people, by doing that very thing. Those moments we keep talking about with the different musicians, you're doing that. You're taking your pain and something's happening, and it's turning it, you're using it, and you're turning it into something beautiful. So if you do music for that reason, you're going to fail more times than you succeed, but you're not going to quit, because you know that people need this. People need to know that the world needs us to be making music. And that's, to me, that's what I would want a young person to know, or even a teacher, just anybody, to remember, because it's easy to get caught up in, because it's not like you don't do competitions, you don't go to school, you don't work jobs and play weddings or whatever, but you have to, but it's easy to get too caught up in the rubric and the rating, the ranking, and the assessing, and forget that more basic reason why you're making music. And that has nothing to do with how many people are listening to you. It's something you can just have for yourself. So the ebook is basically advice. It's advice that I would give to a young musician. It's free, and I actually don't have any sort of I don't have any product tied to it or anything. I just am offering it to people. So.
That is so cool, and folks, that is the money lines right there. So that that everything you just said was absolutely pure gold. So I know I'm excited to go check out this ebook, and I want everybody who's listening right now, like, to stop what you're doing, whether you're on your run, whether you're at the gym, whether you're actually sitting down at a computer listening to this, whatever it may be. I want you to go, and I want you to go get Justin's free ebook. It's called Sing Your Song. And where can they go get that at, Justin?
Okay, so it's at it's www.roots/records.com. And I'd have to explain. I guess I won't explain why that's.
Is it roots slash or is it roots dash?
Oh, dash. It's dash.
Dash.
Thank
Gotcha. Roots dash music.
Yeah.
.com, right?
So it's roots-records.com.
Roots-records.com. We got it. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the website actually for my after school program that we didn't talk about much, but that's the name of that. So, but then there's going to be a link to the ebook on that site. You can just get it there. And then
so cool.
Yeah. So there's that.
and then I know you have one other thing that you wanted to share.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the other thing is, the life I live is not for everyone, but I actually am incredibly happy. I love my life, and it has a lot to do with my career. I think if music is your life, I think it's nice if it can be your career also, because career is part of your life. And I have a job running an after-school music program, mentoring, like I've been talking about, young songwriters and jazz musicians, young creative musicians. And I only work part-time hours, actually. I teach 16 hours a week, run the business another 3 or 4 hours a week. And then and I make a full-time wage doing it, make a really nice salary doing it. And it frees me up to do my creative projects, and it frees up my weekends, and I can still play. And so if people are interested in learning how to do that yourself, I'm just looking for a handful of musicians that are really committed, dedicated musicians that are trained in creative music, mostly jazz, and I'm looking to mentor some pretty self-motivated people to start your own business doing the same thing that I do. So if that resonates with you, you could just give them my email address, and I'll just personally talk to anybody who wants to hear more about how we could.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, and I have your email address. Your email address is justin.nielsen54@gmail.com, NIELSEN. And so we're going to have all this, by the way, in the show notes today at learnjazzstandards.com/episode 100, episode 100. So if you want any of this, if you can go check this out there. So roots-records.com to get that free ebook, and be sure to hit up Justin if you want to be part of his inner circle, if you want to get inside of what he actually does, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I want you to do that right now. Now, Justin, again, thank you so much for being on the show. You've meant so much to me in my life, and the way you've just helped shape the direction that I've gone in, and like you were saying earlier, how I've found my own gifts, my own niche to go into with this music thing, and no one can ever take that away from me, and I can continue to enjoy music, and a lot of that is because of you, and so I appreciate that, and I appreciate you having on the show and just unloading a ton of value on my audience, and I'm looking forward to maybe having you on some other time.
Oh, thank you, Brent. I got to say, I've been wanting to just be able to sit down and grab coffee together or something and talk like this. And it's cool that we got to do it in front of a bunch of people. I didn't feel like it to me, though. It felt really personal and awesome. So I'm glad we got to do this.
Awesome, Just. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Brent.
All right, that's all for today's show. I want to thank you so much for being here, and I want to thank again our special guest, Justin Nielsen, for being on the show today, for just giving so much value. I really appreciate him being on for episode 100. Be sure to check out roots-records.com for get that free ebook, and if you want to become part of his tribe send them an email. All that can be found in today's show notes, which is learnjazzstandards.com/episode 100. All right, remember, if you want to be part of our raffle for this month, for our birthday month, go to learnjazzstandards.com/raffle. For every single action item there, you will get entered into additional points for our raffle, win some prizes like our courses or ebooks. We don't do this stuff very often. This is a special occasion, so be sure to take advantage of that, and also at the same time help out the podcast. All right, now next week we are going to be having episode 101. I look forward to seeing you back then.
Thanks for listening to the LJS podcast, brought to you by LearnJazzStandards.com. Subscribe to the series on iTunes, and don't forget to join our jazz community at LearnJazzStandards.com/newsletter.